Peace, family. Tonight is another peculiar night for me. Um, Hopefully, there'll be someone scrolling through, feeling the weight of some of the things I'm feeling right now too. Up late, if you're in California, excuse me, if you're in Texas or the East Coast, looking for something relaxing, something informative, something you can just get into, this would be the kind of live for you that I'm tapping into tonight. This is Metaphysical Monday, and according to CST time, I am literally 3 hours behind California time. I know my California people, it's still early there to the West Coast. I want to just shout everybody out. Shout out to the West Coast and to the Oakland family who supported my live stream. The main stream was on Facebook, and we've been celebrating the tribute of Brother John Curtis, Soul Charge. He passed away unexpectedly on June 18th. Very soul crushing for me and my community and the global, his community too. But I wanted to say the global network that we all have been blessed to come together and be a part of, bridged by John Curtis. But I'm gonna go ahead and just say a few words before I get into my build. The build tonight is called Unlearned, and I was gonna go into the miseducation of the ancestors and our spirituality and the ancestors. And I am going to build deeper on that. Um, I'm hoping it don't force me to turn my camera on you guys because it did this to me last week. I'm totally not, in my metaphysical Monday. I'm not dressed. I'm not in that space. I'm still going through grief. I have other things that I'm also dealing with. I was supposed to go live at the top of the hour, but I wasn't ready. And so I want to talk to you guys tonight. I'm gonna get into this. This is now gonna be called the Etch-a-Sketch Mindset. Something I thought about today as I was just pondering, and you see a man there with an Etch-a-Sketch. I'm gonna make sure I put a bigger picture up so you can really take a look at what I'm going into tonight, what I want to go into. Um, Grand Rising, everybody. Welcome back to Metaphysical Monday. And I want to thank again everyone who tuned in to the tribute to our brother John Curtis, Soul Charge, who was a part of the ritual, the libation, rather, and the candle lighting ceremony as well. And for, you know, um, just the build in general. This was that was a very powerful build. It's only been 2 weeks since the passing, and I put a lot of myself into that message. And we're still grieving. It's we're still processing it. We're still carrying it. I want to be honest with y'all. Personally, I've been standing in that fire, a fire that just won't cool down. Every time I think it's about to turn down, it turns up. It turns right back up. So I'm learning to dance in that fire every single day. I'm learning. I spoke about the pressure cooker a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't do another pressure cooker build tonight. Originally, tonight's bill was going to be called Unlearned. Again, the miseducation of spirituality and the ancestors. This is going to be um, a bill with several parts. So this is part one. And tonight we're going to turn into the reason I want to be gentle when I speak about certain things that, pertaining to how people feel and believe. Um, this is a sensitive time for a lot of people. I just want to send out some, love, comfort, peace, good vibes. I didn't want to, I'm already standing in the fire and I didn't want to pour gasoline on myself. I didn't want to stand in an even hotter fire tonight. So, whether you are understanding what I mean by standing in the fire or not, a lot of us are standing in the fire. This fire is about transformation. Some transformations take longer than we expect. So, I've been paying a lot of attention to people that are also barely holding on right now. There's something happening in the atmosphere. People are under a lot of pressure. Whether you call it the changing of the gourd, the changing of cycles, a dimensional shift, something is definitely changing. And it's causing a certain unrest in our communities, whether we're speaking of real live communities or real digital communities. Um, it's like spirituality is getting louder, religion is getting louder, politics is getting louder, fear is getting louder, hate is getting louder. And because people are under so much pressure, many are finding it difficult to challenge their own mindsets and their own belief systems and the ideas that we've carried for years. This unrest it creates in our homes and communities, and even within ourselves, and even in our friendships. Because the truth is, everybody wasn't meant to fit in the same box. As we began to come into our missions and our purpose and stepping out on our own faith and dreams and the way we may see life, we all have a purpose, we all have a voice, we all have a right way, what's right for us in the way we choose to see truth in our own or on our own, in our own way. Tonight I decided not to show my face, even though if you saw the live, I made a mistake and I literally did turn the camera on. Um, Again, I'm relaxing. If I do decide to turn the camera on, just know I'm not dressed for Metaphysical Monday. I've showered, I'm in relaxed clothes, and this is what it is. This is one of these lives again where you could just sit back, lay down and listen to the message, lay across your bed. If you're at work, if you're driving, be safe. You may be at work listening in one ear and working with your other ear, but if you're cleaning the house, let this be something you can sit with. I also want to thank all my new subscribers, supporters, and friends. If you have not subscribed, please consider doing so as the bills are going to continue and we're going to be building on some pretty deep things, such as this build tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be called the Etch-a-Sketch Mindset. What's the Etch-a-Sketch Mindset? I don't know, just something I was thinking about. I was talking about one of my ex-boyfriends, is how it first started, and I just got mad and said, he's I didn't really get mad, but it was just reflecting. I said, this is a etch-a-sketch kind of person, and it was like etch-a-sketch, yeah. But y'all remember the etch-a-sketch? If you guys are, grew up in the 80s, you might remember the etch-a-sketch. It was a toy that it draws these lines, they go frontwards, they go backwards, horizontal and vertical. And if you look at the image, like I said, I'm gonna make more imagery so you can see it. But I'm not talking about the Etch-a-Sketch tonight as a childhood flashback. I'm using it as a psychological diagnostic tool. Some of you will be here tonight or see the live later. Some are here because you're terrified to step out of the religious box. Some of you are here. Let's keep it 100. Some of you are here because I will be, some will be judging me, arms crossed, waiting to see what I'm going to say, ready to pounce on me if I don't fit the script. You know, I see you either way. Some people genuinely want to tap in. Tonight is about the cold, robotic, rigid machine that runs inside people's skulls. And the second you don't play the exact role they wrote for you, or what they believe to be truth, indisputable truth, they don't talk. They don't talk about it to get an understanding. Sometimes they just throw you away like garbage. We do it to our family, friends, and lovers. But see, a lot of people are awakening right now on this planet. You know, the energy is different. Everybody is not able to be whipped back into a box. And that's where that unrest that I spoke of is coming from. So, the psychological box, the toy versus the human, the binary machine, that toy only moves, you know, the etch a sketch, it only moves a hard left, a hard right, straight up, straight down, no curves, no shades of gray. It only builds boxes and walls. You know, the etch a sketch, you can't do any curves with it. You can't make flowers or stars with it. There's people that have that mindset like an etch a sketch. You know, this is a narcissist, sometime a perfectionist or a low level thinker. You're either a savior or you're a villain. 100% with them are the enemy. They can't process nuances and boundaries. They move like an etch a sketch. You know, you can go again back and forth. You can keep, you know, going back and forth over the same lines, but there's limitations, right? The retrograde trap. The cursor can slide forward and backward all day long. They can retrace old lines and they can stay in the same trauma cage. But just because you're moving doesn't mean you're creating something new. I was thinking about the Stepfather movie. I was watching Tubi today and I noticed that there was another, while I was building on this etch a sketch, just thinking about it, I saw a new Stepfather with Tay Diggs. I haven't watched it yet, but I was just wondering about it, and it made me think back to the 1987 version of Stepfather. I was only a child when it came out, but it's a pretty good thriller. If you haven't seen the original Stepfather, check it out. And I know they had some other versions that came out too. But the Stepfather has that etch a sketch mindset. Of course, he was a psychopath, so it went to the extreme. But the reason I'm speaking of the etch a sketch mindset, because before we even get into the ancestors and spirituality and the miseducation thereof, we need to understand certain mindsets that prevent us from evolving, or they try and prevent others from evolving, right? So the stepfather, he doesn't. He basically, if you haven't seen it, just a little bit on it. This is a man that literally preys on widows with children or divorcee moms, and he goes and it's like he studies them from afar, and then he comes in a predatory way and try to form this fake ideal of what family is, his perfection and ideal of family. And if you notice on that etch a sketch that the brother is holding on the thumbnail, look at what he's building. Look at the boxes and this real. He only can create. It's like it's not any curves. There's no dimension to it. So it's his way. It's one way. It's the shades of gray or this narrow way of looking at things. This unrealistic way of looking at things. The same way people do in society. He doesn't really love an actual family. He loves the script in his head. You know, and the second a human flaw shows up or the fantasy cracks, he doesn't just change his mind. He wipes out the family. He goes and wipe out the family just to start over somewhere else. You know, the thing about an etch a sketch, you can make all kind of lines and diameters and boxes and I don't know about diameters, but you can draw all of these lines, horizontal and vertical, and you can go back and forth. But the one thing you can also do with an etch a sketch, you can shake it. You can shake it up and just start all over again. And whatever you drew, whatever ideas or whatever you etched out is no longer there. It's a blank screen, right? A blank slate. And so the second a human flaw show up in this fantasy family, He doesn't just change his mind, he wipes them out and start the same exact boxes somewhere else. That is the throwaway discard. Total ghosting, blocking, erasing. And then he starts over with the same shit. But there's no such thing as a perfect family. So he finds himself disappointed. But that's the psychological thriller of the stepfather and how I linked him to this Etch-a-Sketch mindset. But I know a lot of people who carries that. We're going to go into the religious pivot and get a little bit closer to the unlearned ancestors and spirituality, which we will be building on next week. This religious pivot is the patriarchal blueprint. The sanctuary box is what this go into the sanctuary box. See, now let's take that same exact rigid machinery and bring it straight into the sanctuary. And I'm not here to diss anybody's faith tonight or put them down. This is just about keeping it 100% on the design of the system. The patriarchal standpoint of our religion operates on the same vertical and horizontal grid: saved, demonic, saint, sinner. It is built from a strict patriarchal standpoint to establish order and to maintain control over the masses. But then in the process of that, there's a matriarchal erasure. Because it is a rigid patriarchal machine, it has zero capacity to honor, protect, or understand the fluid, the intuitive matriarchal standpoint. It can't handle a deep ancestral flow that runs through our bloodlines. If the system can't box it or control it, it calls it evil. The sad part? There's so many women that should be standing behind the matriarchy and they fall right into this mindset and really erase themselves, losing themselves in something that never really see them or never saw them, you know. But the religious discard, the institution loves a script and they love a submissive member. The second you ask an honest question or step outside of their theology, their doctrine, they shake the screen, just like the Etch-a-Sketch, shake it up and down. They shun and demonize your growth under the guise of holiness just to keep their screens blank. Sometimes they even wear the garments, the cowrie shells. They talk about all of this, black girl magic, until they see a black girl doing a magic, you know what I mean? And just really standing in her power and empowerment. A man love a goddess. Oh, I want a powerful woman. I want this. Oh, she's beautiful. She's this and she's that. But again, as soon as it can't be controlled or it falls short of this superior, flawless nature that you imposed on these people, on this person, then all of a sudden you're ready to shake it up and discard it if you can't control it. Why am I talking about this? Because as I said, we are all evolving in different ways. And it's not about man or woman, because there's spiritual men just like there's spiritual women. There's religious men just like there are religious women. It's not so much about religion versus spirituality tonight, more than it is about a rigid mindset. And even sometime in spiritual circles, you will find and see those same mindsets. They're operating in this, they're saying they want this religious freedom, but then they'll come back in and try to colonize spirituality. They'll begin to try and make rules and stuff. And we don't really operate on rules in spirituality more than we operate in laws. It just makes me mad when they just still, it's 2026 and people are still going on these all out witch hunts. And my thing is, believe what you want to believe, choose what you want to choose, but you don't have to attack other people. It makes me question what your MO is. If your whole platform is based on attacking other people because you don't believe it or you fear it or it doesn't fit into your narrative. And I have a lot to say about that. I'm going to break this down on some other lives coming moving forward. I definitely want to speak about the true Jezebel spirit, you know, um, not what people think it means, because it's not the one with the broth in the pot stirring up stew and reciting rhymes. It's deeper than that. Okay, it's a certain mindset, that same etch-a-sketch mindset that I'm talking about. It's really interesting. I don't even want to go there tonight because it's going to take me off my topic. But let's go into the ancestral circle, the simplified shift, the machine versus the bloodline. An Etch-a-Sketch is mechanically incapable of drawing a circle. True spirituality and ancestral connection is a circle. It is a circle. It's fluid, it's organic, and it's abstract. It reaches back to those who came before you and forward to those who come after you. And I think one of the biggest issues is that people are always looking for gods in the sky when God is within. We look for ancestor to be some outside spirits that's surrounding you when really your ancestors live in your blood, live in your DNA. It's encoded in you. Where that's why sometimes they speak to us through dreams and honestly, we can hear through their ears and see through their eyes because that frequency of that blood still runs through our veins. We are one because of that. So in real life, there's really no separation in the way we try to process it, like from a church standpoint, like, oh, we're looking in the sky for something to come down or we're invoking demons. Oh, your ancestors are within you. Ashe? The miseducation, they taught you that reaching back to your ancestors is witchcraft. And witchcraft is not even something that now because of all of the colonization, but that's never what we and as African people especially, we never even called ourselves witches. And if you want to go to the word witch, that is to mean a wise woman. So I guess it's evil to be wise. Can be. Knowledge is power. But they taught you that reaching back to your ancestors is witchcraft. That is the miseducation. You carry the DNA in your bones. You carry their resilience in your blood. And you are terrified of your roots because you were educated by people who conquered them. You heard? hmm That was beneficial for those who wanted to keep you in a state of sleep and oppression, right? Those are the things that happened during slavery. And a long time ago when I was in church, I used to really think like, oh God, we're just so blessed. Jesus came and took us away from all of that bad stuff. I used to think just like that as a kid because that's what I was programmed to think. You know, I don't want to go too raw, like I said, because I could really rip it. But a lot of people still been waiting on a return. And they're looking for a physical return of whatever figure you're waiting on, whether it's Jesus or whomever, when really, you know, it's in you. God is within. It's not anything that, I don't want to it's not anything that's coming to save us per se. You really have to save yourself and understand that God is within and we see God through each other. May the light in God in you salute the light of God in me. you know we're supposed to be our brothers and sisters keepers too. So people are spirituality, people like religion is just basically, it's like organizing, it's the organization of spirituality. Now we talk about the mirror trap. Religion forces you to look at a book and pay a middleman to talk to the divine. Your ancestors, remind you that the line inside your blood is already open. It honors the grandmothers and mothers and who carried the intuition and survival strategies through history. The safe connection, it's something else I wanted to go to because it seems as if I'm missing something here. Hold on, let me go back. Some other things I wanted to look at. Because they're talking about a closing, but I don't want to. It's something else that I'm supposed to look at here, and maybe I went through the notes, but there's something else I want to say. I'll just add in what I want to say. Yeah, see, I had a lot of different notes here, and I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. But since we've been dealing with this frame here, I want to touch a little bit on this, on the matriarchal frame again, or friction, versus the religious retrograde loop. Because it is speaking of the matriarchal friction between the patriarchal friction, that's always what it comes down to. What I had to learn, it's not just the white thing and the black thing. It's about also the way the patriarchy works together, and it actually blurs the color lines. It's amazing how men who are supposedly conscious and black are so quick to adapt to the patriarchy. But this isn't really about the patriarchy more than it's an institution from the patriarchy. It's an institutionalized system that both women and men uphold. I guess I did read through this already, you guys. The religious institution does not love your breathing, evolving soul. It loves the script, and again, a submissive follower. And the second we ask an honest questions, again, it begins to, that's when the problem comes in. The second you ask about your roots or experience. You ever notice how unblack you gotta become, and how un-African and how unmelanated you gotta become to fit in these certain spaces that don't automatically welcome us in? You have to lose so much of your natural self to become whatever this other stuff that we've become over all of these years. See, spiritual awakening is something that it's not encouraged. Even health. I remember like saying, "Oh, we shouldn't worry about health and exercise. It's more important to follow, this structure." They don't see your growth as a natural curve. They see it as a threat again, and that's when they begin to shun, demonize, and discard your spiritual gifts. And then they find a new convert. Well, actually, they wipe the skin after they wipe the screen clean. Their fragile certainty. It gives them a temporary hit of relief. Like, I'm gonna just get rid of this demon. Don't talk to demons. Even they'll tell their kids like, don't talk to people that's not saved. But with all of these different things that we deal with, and then they find a new convert, hand them the same exact legalism, and start drawing the same exact toxic box that suffocated you. And I'm not speaking more to the church. I'm speaking to relationships, even that family that uphold certain things that they automatically expect you to get in line with. We people been talking a lot about being scapegoated in families. They've been talked about being isolated and ostracized. I've dealt with it myself, to a bad degree. And it's okay, because you can't be afraid to step out on what you need to step out on. If not, you will constantly be boxed in and you will never grow. And what's real to you. There are people that make you think that you're crazy, you know. But at the end of the day, let's go into divine technology. You know what, you guys? My notes got so I wanted to touch on something, so I may repeat some things because I had more than one set of notes. So just bear with me, please. I'm going to just read the divine technology again. It says, now that we've broken down the machinery of control, let's talk about what they taught you to fear. They told you that reaching back again to the ancestors was witchcraft. But your ancestors is not random floating ghosts in the dark. Your ancestors, again, are the literal biological spiritual architects of your existence. Again, we carry their DNA in our bones and our resilience in our blood, their resilience in our blood. And connecting with them isn't a spooky ritual. It's the reclaiming of your cosmic inheritance. Okay? The middleman trap. The patriarchal grid had to demonize the ancestors because the ancestors present or represent a line of power that an institution cannot tax, govern, or control. Institutional religion tells you that you need a middleman to talk to God. Your ancestors remind you that that line again is already open. And I think I'm repeating this because it's some things that were missed in the other notes. And I think it's important for those that may just be coming in. I want to welcome everybody that I see coming in. And again, if you're resonating with the message, please, give feedback, subscribe, like, share the live. If you don't agree, you may still comment. Okay. Honoring the mothers is really important. We get left out, even though the Bible say God is both manifestations of male and female energy. But we're so important to the earth. It's not just about building structures and houses and buildings. I mean, we actually build people. We create the humans that are going to work in these structures and live in these structures and continue to keep the world going. The first classroom is the womb. And this is where we bring back the matriarchal standpoint. It was the grandmothers, the great grandmothers, and great great grandmothers who carried the medicine, the intuition, the survival strategies in the darkest chapters of history. And they didn't operate in straight lines like the Etch-a-Sketch. They didn't deal with dogmatic laws. They operated in circles, circles of community, circles of rhythm, circles of nature, and circles of spirits. When you deny your ancestors, you are actively erasing the very woman who prayed you into existence. And men, you are terrified of your ancestors because you were educated again by the people who conquered them. Of course, the system taught you to fear the very roots that could set you free from the system. Think about the insanity of a mindset that tell you to pray to people you don't even know from distant and ancient lands while telling you it's evil to honor your own great grandmother who actually held you, loved you, built the foundation that you are standing on right now. And this is another definition of being miseducated. An Etch-a-Sketch is mechanically incapable of drawing a circle. It can't draw a circle. Even if it recognized the circle, it doesn't have the tools. It's not capable of drawing circles. And that's how those mindsets are. They're incapable of abstract thinking. It just thinks in one straight line. And they train and indoctrinate others to do the same. True spirituality in your ancestral connection is the circle, though. As we talked about, it's fluid. It's the fluid. It's cyclical. It's organic. And it honors both the matriarchs and the patriarchs. It reaches back to those who came before us and forward to those who come after us. But because a straight line grid cannot build a circle, it convinces itself that circles are heresy. The system mistakes its own political controlling and limitations for the boundaries of the creator. The problem isn't that spirituality or ancestors are evil. The problem is the instrument was built for mass control and it simply cannot measure the depth of an eternal soul. Now, because I'm late, but I'm always on time. I move in frequency, vibration in the way I'm called to move, even through my trauma right now, grieving. I still have a message for my community. Now, for those that it's gonna get deeper now, because now we're gonna go into, and I don't mean now is on this live. I'm gonna close with this, but next week is gonna get deeper because then we need to really tap into what I'm really talking about: the miseducation of ancestors and spirituality. Tonight was unlearn the Etch-a-Sketch mindset. Next week it will be unlearn the miseducation of spirituality and ancestors. I started to make it the taboo nature of spirituality and witchcraft, but I don't think the community or certain energies with it just wasn't time, and timing is everything. Okay. So how do you put down the straight line instrument and step back into your ancestral circle? You don't need to do anything complex. You start with intent and clarity and boundaries. Number one, the filter. Intentionally speak strictly to the ancestors of the highest vibration, love, light, and protection, the ones who passed the finish line of evolution. Number two, the space. Dedicate a clean, quiet table in your home. And this is for people that are kind of like on the tier. They're back and forward. They only wear their dashikis and everything during February and Black History Month. Seriously though, no shade, but it's true. I have cousins that would come like, "Hey, it's Black Month. You have anything in your closet that I can wear to church?" It's crazy, but hey, that's how it is. But if you really want to understand, you dedicate a clean and quiet table in your home. Place a glass of clean water to represent the flow and clarity. A candle. You don't need chicken feet. Get a picture of your maternal and your paternal elders, if you haven't already did this, who lived with honor. Speak truth with raw honesty and gratitude to them. Talk to them like they're family that's still there. And that's another thing about me. I don't speak about the dead like they're dead. I've always talked about them like they're still alive. I don't say what they used to do. I just say, like, Grandma Daisy, she always, because in reality, that's how I keep them alive. Sometimes the grief is so much, you have to, understand that. I mean, they're still inside of us, so that frequency is still there. So yeah, we do libation. If you guys seen my live last week and you saw me making libation, it is said that when we speak out loud, the names of our ancestors are those that have passed away, like friends and things that, people you're close to are. That's how you keep them alive, through the memories. But nobody can deny the force and the power of the blood. Blood, spirit, and water are always in agreement, even according to the Bible, for those who still, follow that to the line. Now, you also want to, you don't really need to have any type of scripts or special prayers unless you want to. You just speak directly. You speak truth, speak it raw. Sometimes I pray for dreams to come just so I can get answers to different things and help that I need and guidance through the clarity that can come through a dream. Sometimes it's through messages. I remember one time right before I got lost in the forest in Oakland, I was on Daisy Street and I'm sitting here like, it might have been Richardson Street. My grandmother's name is Daisy Richardson. I just remember I was leaving the studio and I literally got stuck in the forest and I had to really lean on my inner self, like, because Oakland is a trip now. We see this one side of Oakland, but Oakland got a lot of trees. Oakland got a lot of forest type land. And once you move away from like the mainland and go like Skyline Boulevard and those roads right there, it could be a trip. If you've never, if it's like it's very isolated. If you've never seen that part of Oakland, it could be a bit jarring. I was stuck in the forest for 2 hours, and I just remember the trust and faith that I had to have that I was being led and guided, in order to even drive through there. Why is that important? Let me tell y'all why it's important. Sometimes I still get heebie jeebies from certain energies and certain things. I don't know what may have happened in those spaces. And right before I got on live tonight, I was supposed to start at 10 o'clock, which is CST time, which would have been 8 o'clock um, PST time. And I'm going to tell you guys this. I wasn't going to share this, but since I'm almost done with the live, I will. I don't know, but I opened up a picture that was on the Google backdrops and it just really it creeped me out. It creeped me out like to a point where it was almost like triggering. It made me feel like really weird. So I know being an empath and being connected, it was some type of a frequency or energy that was connected to that picture that made me feel away. And I literally had to ground. I was meditating and everything. So I had to reground myself and just understand, like, okay, you still got to talk to your community. You still got to, I'm going through a lot right now, but it was interesting to say the least. Um, Nature, because sometimes things are beautiful, but when you look at it for a long time, and I'm a little off subject. This don't have anything to really do with the ancestors, but sometimes when just the reality and experiences and the consciousness that we have, you don't just see a waterfall, or you may not just see a ocean or a beach. You may not just see a beautiful forest. Sometimes we see other things that, maybe energies that may have taken place there on those grounds, or Even though it was only on a picture, I still felt a way that I wasn't comfortable with. And I didn't want to explore it too much because I would have talked myself out of going live, right? So I'm going to go into section 6. What I wanted to close on with the ancestors, though, is ask for guidance and protections to help you navigate a world that is still trying to force you in a box. And that's where what even brought this about. It's like no matter how far we think we've gotten, and I said that things are getting louder now. People's religion is getting louder. Politics are getting louder. Spirituality is getting louder because nobody, we're not trying to go back into a box we fought for years to get out of. But there's other people who refuse to open or expand the box. There's people who are in fear. It's a lot of cognitive dissonance, right? And I've seen the world getting at a more of a, I've seen it years ago just in my mind, just in how humans work and society work and people getting into this space of this unrest where, we're literally warring with each other and men and women aren't getting along. That's crazy in itself because there's like a divide between this patriarchal and matriarchal energy. Rather, who's right or wrong? And I don't look at it like all men are wrong and all women are wrong. No, it's a us thing, especially in the black culture. But it's not just black people. It's I've seen men and women and it's just this whole red pill community and all kind of stuff going on right now. But what we have to remember is we're stronger together. We're absolutely stronger together. And as we get more into this technical, cold, metal world of AI and the age of Aquarius, which also not only deals with tech, it deals with humanity. Once we see the value in each other again, may we once again come into alignment, come into harmony with each other, community, love. It's a shame that it takes people dying and deaths and different things that happen for us to begin to recognize poverty. Um, when the job market is bad and we have to lean on each other and barter and do all of those things, but it makes us beautifully human again sometime. And hopefully we don't have to go to a state that is so a state of depravity that we have to experience unnecessary hardships and suffering because we're too stubborn and hell bent on evolving, growing, hearing what people say. Sometimes we can actually hear what someone's saying, it's a good point, but our pride won't allow us to accept it, you know? So I want to just close on this. The final mirror, just something to think about. Where in your life are you allowing a straight line, a dogmatic system to treat your internal soul and your ancestors like a sketch pad that they can just wipe clean the moment you step outside of their script? How long will you go blindly knowing that certain questions aren't answered, being wrapped up in the ritual? Because it's not only spirituality that have rituals, no. Nah, they got rituals in religion as well. You do them every Sunday for those that still subscribe to that. They try to separate difference. If I'm in church, I'm a prophet. If I'm outside of that, then I'm a witch or a false prophet. It just anyway, we'll get more into that next week when we speak on the miseducation of ancestors and spirituality. Stop begging a concrete legalist to understand an abstract mystic. Stop trying to crush your divine ancestral curves into a 90-degree angle just to make a blind preacher or a toxic partner or judgmental family members happy or comfortable. Don't let an institution or an individual make you feel broken. And this is to my fellow healers, fellow real conscious people, people who are doing this work, who are really delving deep into their own spirituality and looking for that knowledge of self. And those that's been living in it and fighting alone, like myself, for over 25 years. You know, we have to stand by each other and support each other because they don't give up, you know, and whoever that they is to you. Okay. When I say they don't give up, the attacks are going to be constant. I may have attacks on this post later. I don't know how many people will eventually see it. But frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. I can't. You know, it's something that I have to honor myself and honor my community and honor the people who are feeling stuck and even like, man, maybe this isn't the right way. Let me go back into the box. Now get out the box. Get out the box. Don't let an institution or individual make you feel broken because their rigid blueprint was only designed to build boxes, just like that Etch-a-Sketch. As I said, the Etch-a-Sketch, even if it can see stars and flowers and curves, it doesn't have the capability to do anything but draw boxes. Check out the thumbnail again or the avatar. Look at what he's drawing. He's frustrated because he wants this picture perfect family that he's drawing out and grafted on his Etch-a-Sketch, but he's only getting stick figures. Nothing has its own uniqueness or even similar to reality. It's almost like a Stepford wife or something. You know what I mean? You got to put down the knobs on the Etch-a-Sketch and step out of the script and step into your power. And those are the kind of things that I teach on. You know, the Etch-a-Sketch is just a toy, right? But it's also a psychological tool. It's also a drafting board. It make lines and it reiterate lines. You can go forward, you can go back, and you can just keep going back and forth like a crazy person, up and down. But you can't curve, you can't go diagonal. There's only one way, right? And even if you go the opposite way, it's still on that same 90-degree line. But anyway, that's what I have for tonight. I want to wish you guys a blessed night. You know, rest well. And if you are carrying a heavy mantle or burden of anything, because this has been a hard time, whether it's your finances or relationships, and some people even been dealing with things with their children. You know, anything. We talked about the geofences on this channel before when I talk about AI, but there's also those family geofences and grids. And sometimes you may even feel challenged by your own children, by your own parent, if you are a younger person, your community, your lover. You'll know when you step into that geofence because they're going to give you pushback and fight like hell to put you back in the box. And some will just simply discard you, like stepfather. Anyway, family, peace. And again, I will be back next week. I'll be back before next week, but we'll be back with another Metaphysical Monday in this same series, The Unlearned, the Miseducation of Ancestors and Spirituality. You guys have a blessed night. Peace.